Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin. Can everybody out there tonight hear me? Let me hear a round of applause if you can hear us here. Well, I'm Rob Hipp, your weekly radio host. Thank you for joining us here for SU Football Weekly with head coach Joe Austin. Of course, last week was the bye week, so we're really not going to look back towards Belhaven. You had to come last week to hear about that game. A lot of excitement, though. You can go back and, of course, watch all of these coaches' shows online. Of course, last week, though, that bye week, and before that, the Pirates defeated Belhaven here in Georgetown 21-10, Saturday before last on October the 13th. We talked about that game last week and showed the highlights in the previous coaches show. This week, we're going to go over in this first segment. This is normally where we talk about the previous game. We're going to go over where Southwestern currently stands, talk about the season so far. Southwestern 4-3 overall. They're 3-3 in American Southwest Conference play. Fifth right now in conference behind Mary Hardin Baylor, Hardin Simmons, Texas Lutheran, and East Texas Baptist. There's 3 games left here in the regular season. Those games versus Hardin Simmons, we'll talk about that in the fourth segment. We'll be at Howard Payne, and then we'll finish regular season play at Texas Lutheran. Coach Joe Austin, great to have you. As always, I'm going to shake your hand, man. It's been fun so far this season. Been a true blessing to be here. Of course, no game last week, so we'll go over the season so far for Southwestern. 3 games remaining on the schedule. Really, how has the team been able to work through unexpected injuries this season? Because let's be honest, you guys have came in, played with a lot of young players, and for the most part have done well with those young guys.
Well, it's always a difficult thing. We're getting to a point now where a lot of guys that were forced into play early in the season have played a lot. For example, a lot of our offensive line changes were early in the season, so guys have really settled in. Charles De La Rosa, for example, a freshman right tackle that took over for TJ Vela. Big shoes to fill. He's doing a really good job. There's a bunch of guys. You start naming names, and you almost like I probably shouldn't start doing that because you may forget somebody. But Jared Wiggins, for example, left tackle, has stepped in, done a nice job. A lot of players that have stepped in. James Hill's probably playing a bigger role at guard than he thought he would. But to get some of our healthy seniors now, Noah Berlanga, who's going to be on the show, missed the first 4 games of the season. He's healthy and playing a lot for us. James Smatt missed a lot of time, but he's back to being healthy. Our senior all-conference left guard. The one stalwart that we've had that really has been in the lineup the whole time is David Alvin Quinton, who's on the show early in the season. Hasn't missed a game his whole season. He started probably almost 30 games now. Cole Atterbury has had some injury issues, but he's been in a lot. So having 4 senior offensive linemen that are getting healthy as they've been, hopefully is going to be a good thing for our offense.
Well, Coach, you talk about the seniors. Of course, right now every game's special for the seniors here at Southwestern University. From your perspective as a coach, what is that like to you, and what's kind of the attitude towards the seniors, especially with 3 games remaining here in regular season, Coach?
This is when it really sinks in, when they know that it's about time to be done with at least college football. We've been blessed to have a few guys that have gone on and played, 3 guys that are playing professionally right now, but they're going to be doing something else. And about 3 weeks left, really for sure when it hits November, guys really know it that their time is limited. This group of seniors is fairly small. In fact, there's a few that came in with this group that are going to be 5th-year seniors next year, so it seems really small, but 8 guys that are really great program players, and that they do a lot on the field, but they do everything right in practice. They do everything right in preparation. They do everything right off the field. And I think as they've come through the show this year and folks have got to hear their story and find out about them, you find out that they're really some really good young men. They've got really good futures in front of them. So it's a group that we'll miss, a group that's been very productive, a lot of all-conference players. And it's great that all of them have been able to be players that are making on-field contributions as seniors.
Well, Coach, we talk about the bye week, of course, not playing last week. So what happens during the bye week? You know, these guys, I know they're ready for Hardin Simmons. It's going to be a tough game. We'll talk about it in the fourth segment. But talk a little bit about what happened during these past 2 weeks now as the Pirates get ready for Saturday night.
Well, apparently it rains. That's what happens in the bye week.
Which is good. If it doesn't rain Saturday, that's good.
This Saturday is supposed to be the first game of the season, Game 8, where there's not rain in the forecast. And we haven't, let's give a
little clap for that. We need some sunshine.
In Texas, we can go 3 months without a drop, but Saturdays in 2018, and there's plenty of rain. And whether you're in Abilene or wherever we've been, out in Alpine, there's rain. The Alpine game, you were on the wrong side, but there was thunder in the mountains, and the mountains aren't too far away. So I'm watching the thunder clouds kind of roll through the mountains, hoping we're going to get things in. We went to McMurray, and it rained right up till game time. Where else did we go that rained right up till game time? Went to Mary Hardin Baylor. It rained right up till game time. East Texas, it rained right up till game time. So I guess we've done okay with it. But your original question was not about any of that. It was about what happens in the bye week. But rain's all we've been really thinking about. So tomorrow I think we'll be on one of our fields at our facility, and it will be a full 2 weeks, 14 days since we've been able to be out on our facility. Last week we got 1 hour practice in the gym. Based on field conditions. And this year we've been blessed to find, or this week, an alternate practice facility that's been able to allow us to get out there. We really needed that last night because it rained the whole time. It was like the fine shower mist that you're setting on your shower head. I mean, it was just a thick, steady stream. It wasn't hard rain. But I'm glad I wasn't playing quarterback last night because the ball was pretty wet. But our guys did a really good job with it. So that's the story of the bye week. It's been a lot of weather. We didn't get as much extra preparation as you would like. With your bye week, you like to think you have 2 weeks to prepare for an opponent, and mentally we have, but physically we've only had one normal week. I guess the trade-off is no one got hurt last week because we didn't play football. The problem is you lose some of your physical conditioning. You can lose a little bit of your sharpness. I'm not worried about that anymore because Monday and Tuesday were probably two of our best practices that we've had all season long, and yesterday wasn't bad, but I think maybe the guys getting away from football, they felt a little bit recharged, and we practiced at a different location. That always adds some enthusiasm when there's a scenery change. So perhaps getting away from football is good. And some teams will do it that way. They'll totally cancel during the bye week. They'll get them totally out and away. NFL, for example, they don't do anything in their bye week. And that's kind of what we ended up doing. We had some meetings and 1 hour of a half-speed practice in the gym. And in our gym, we can get a whole width. There's about 2 feet on each side of the gym, and you can get about 20 yards deep. So you can get a full field in there if you have to. You just can't go very far. You can kind of work some run game things. You can't work much pass-wise. And that's all we got during our bye week. But this week has been really good preparation-wise.
Was a chocolate milk getting drank this bye week? I wanted to ask that, Coach.
The chocolate milk? Well, probably not as much because we didn't do anything. You're referring to the fact that we make sure our commons, our cafeteria has lots of chocolate milk for post-workouts, and there weren't too many workouts for them, so they probably saved some money on chocolate milk. So Sodexo, you're welcome. We helped you with your profit margins. We didn't drink as much chocolate milk.
Well, Coach, we've been through several games so far this season. As we've talked about, 3 games left here in the regular season. From the coaching side, what have you been impressed with your team this season?
Well, I've been impressed with our resilience. We kind of mentioned some injuries every week. We've been resilient, and our guys have come back. They were down when we had that rough patch during the middle of the season. They didn't expect to drop 3 in a row, and none of us did. But they've been resilient, and they've fought back. I've been impressed with how our guys have taken to our defensive scheme. We mentioned we lost all 4 of our defensive secondary last year, and that changed our style. We went to more of a zone team versus a man team, which means we had to retool what everyone does because we can't just put 7, 8 guys in the box and man cover everyone every down and make a living that way. So I'm impressed with how our guys have taken to our defensive scheme and how we've tailored it to our new pieces and how we've been a really consistent team stopping the run this week. And we'll tie that in, I'm sure, to Hardin Simmons when we get to them because they're I haven't looked at the stats, but they average about 350 yards a game. That's got to be one of the top 1, 2. I probably should again. I never do enough research, I guess. I just watch videos to coach football these days, right? I don't look at the stats enough, but they've got to be one of the top rushing teams in the nation.
Well, Coach, we continue to talk to head coach Joe Austin here on SU Football Weekly with head coach Joe Austin. The rest of the season, still some time to go here. What are some things that you would like to see the team work on in these final games and also the current mindset right now? Well,
the mindset is what we're working on. We're trying to become a team that is the best team, and I've laid it out really simply for our team going into our bye week in that we're not going to be the most talented team every week. In fact, very few teams in the country are always the most talented team. Alabama can probably say that, and maybe Clemson can say that, and Mary Hardin Baylor at our division can certainly say that every week. But we're not always going to be the most talented team for whatever reasons that may be. But we have to be the best team. We have to be the most cohesive. We have to be better at our assignments. We've mentioned before we've blown coverages for touchdowns. We've fumbled a lot. We've committed a lot of penalties. That's not a great formula for us with the style of team we're going to be at the school that we're at to be successful long term. So we're trying to really hone in on how details are important and how preparation is really key for us to have a chance to beat teams that are top 10 teams like who we're going to see this weekend.
Coach, Talk a little bit, if you don't mind, just and to help me as well, but also for our listeners out there. I've researched it a little bit, but just some clarification. How do the playoffs work in the ASC?
Yeah, I don't mind talking about that. In the American Southwest Conference, there's an automatic bid, and not every conference has it. For example, when we were in the SCAC, one of the reasons they dissolved football was that there wasn't an automatic qualifier. You have to have 7 teams that are all fully Division III eligible. There's teams that, for example, like Belhaven, who moved from a different divisions, reclassifying. McMurray just got done doing that. So for a while, the ASC actually didn't have 7 teams, and that's one of the reasons they wanted us to come in and Texas Lutheran to come in and Belhaven to come back and McMurray to come back, is because there were 2 conferences in Texas and nobody had an automatic qualifier. So if you have 7 or more, then the NCAA will grant your conference champion an automatic qualification, and conferences determine their own champion. For us, we play a full round robin. There's 10 teams, so we play a 9-game round robin. Of course, there's tiebreakers. Number one tiebreaker is head-to-head, and then you can get into point differential, where we've talked before about style points. Those things do actually count in tiebreakers. For example, if there are 3 teams tied for first and they all beat each other, meaning they each had 1 loss against the rest of them, well, then your margin of victory does come into play. So when you look at teams and you're like, well, why are they beating people so bad? Why would that matter? Well, if there's a 3-way tie, then the margin of victory in our conference is the number 2 tiebreaker. So after all the conference champions that have automatic qualifiers are placed into the playoffs, and there's a certain number of, they call, well, I won't get into what they call the different things. There's at-large teams, basically. Kind of like the NCAA men's basketball tournament. They come into a different pool, they call it, and there's a selection committee that ranks teams regionally. They rank the region 1 through 10, and then they start taking the best teams that weren't conference champions to fill in the few spots. Now, our conference is so good that we almost always have at least 2 teams. The one time that can work against you is if you end up where everyone beats everyone. For example, if we beat Hardin-Simmons this week, we may be a one playoff team because everyone will have multiple losses. If Hardin-Simmons wins out, they most certainly will be a playoff team, and they'll probably be hosting a playoff, meaning that UMHB and Hardin-Simmons will both be seated so high in the national tournament that they'll both host playoff games. The Wisconsin Conference, for example, who's always looked at as the best conference in the country, could have 4 playoff teams every year, and I'm not stretching to get there. They usually have 1 because they beat each other up. One team will get through with 1 or 2 losses, and then everyone else will come out 8-2, 7-3, because every week they just beat each other, and that's that's tough to sort through when there's 250 teams. So you've got to really go through pretty much unscathed to get into the playoffs.
Appreciate that, Coach. A lot of different scenarios, but it's always kind of fun to sit back and look at that and see how things work.
Right, and the one thing we didn't mention, I kind of mentioned there's 250 teams. There's 32 in the playoffs, so 32 out of 250 go to the postseason.
Awesome. We appreciate it, Coach. As we continue to talk to head coach Joe Austin here on SU Football Weekly with Coach Austin, you've already talked a little bit about how happy you've been this year with the run defense, how Southwestern has did a great job on that. Can you talk a little bit more, maybe the highlights on both the offense and the defense? You don't have to specifically name players unless you want to, but just talk about some of the strengths that you've seen on both sides of the ball this season.
I think our calling cards have been pretty consistent, and it is the run defense. We've mentioned that. That's something that we've been good at almost every week. We work hard at it. Our guys have done a good job of really buying into what we need to do schematically to make that work. On offense, we're really different than we were last year. We're not quite where we were with execution, but that's because a lot of things have changed, and some things changed because they were bound to change. Some things changed based on injury and some different situations. But our quarterback run game has been pretty consistent, and where that's really paid dividends are on things like 3rd and short, on the goal line. Last week we talked about Fred had 288 rushing yards. We've been able to be really consistent particularly with our inside quarterback run game, and that brings in a lot of people. That brings in our offensive line, it brings in our wing backs, it brings in our slots, it brings in our tight ends. So there's a lot of players that are working towards making that piece work, and why it's worked is it's a situation where we try to outnumber people. When your quarterback has the ball, he doesn't take the snap and turn around and hand it off, then you're usually in a situation where you have an extra player. And so that's been a big key for us, is when our quarterback has the ball, whether it's been Austin Emery or Fred Hover or other guys, it's a +1 situation where we can get everyone blocked, and then the ball carrier has a chance to gain some good yards.
Well, Coach, we've talked all season to players. We've talked to some guests here. I wanted to give you a moment just to give a personal recognition to your coaching staff, because there's guys that work under you, of course, and staff that works under you. So Just wanted for you to share a few thoughts about your coaching staff and the job that they have done so far this season. You guys have such a wonderful staff at Southwestern.
I don't like any of those guys. I'm just kidding. You know, I like them so much that a lot of them I hung out with on the bye weekend. And you have to. I think you have to be that way. I've been on, several different staffs before I became a head coach, and I've had 2 different staffs at 2 schools as a head coach. You spend so much time together that you don't have to be best friends, but you better like each other. When we get together, we don't talk about football. A lot of the coaches went out to Fredericksburg to a place. They're not a sponsor, so I'm not mentioning who they are, but it was kind of fun. And we didn't talk about football at all. We talked about other things, and there were some, there were wives there, and we don't have to talk about football. I think that shows that it's a healthy relationship within our staff. But guys are working really hard. I think they understand their roles. I think they do a really good job. And one of the things I think is really good about our staff is the stability that we've had. There's guys that I've been coaching with for 15, 16 years now, quite a while. And then the guys that we brought into our staff, a lot of those guys have been with us a long time also. Chad Ellis came in, I think, in our 2nd year, and Garrett Winsett came in our 2nd or 3rd year, and they've been with us for a long time. And that's a little bit unusual to be able to have a staff that stays together for so long, and I'm sure that won't be the way we can have it for forever. Guys are going to outgrow their positions. They're going to want to do more, and they're going to want to make more money and have other opportunities within coaching, and I get that. But I think the way they work together has nothing to do with me, but the way they work together, I think, is why we've been able to keep this group together as long as we have.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to take a moment very briefly here, Coach Austin. If you're on staff with Southwestern, you don't have to stand unless you want to, but can you raise your hand? We'd like to recognize all the staff at Southwestern. Appreciate all of you. Y'all do such wonderful work, so thank y'all for all that you do. And, I wanted to kind of make it a special show today here as we didn't really have anything to look back at next week, but just wanted to say thank you to all the Southwestern staff as well. Well, Coach, before we move on to our second interview or second segment and interview our guest, I wanted just to ask you some final thoughts here before we wrap this section up. Any final thoughts that you may have, Coach?
No, sir. We're good.
Awesome.
You had good questions. You found a lot of things to talk about in a week where there wasn't a game, so good job.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it. Let's give it up. One more round of applause. Head coach Joe Austin here for Southwestern University. We'll step aside, friends. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will have guests. We will bring up sophomore defensive end Donovan Conley. We'll clap for him in just a few moments. But stay with us. SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin continues live from the Sheraton here on SHN Sports. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin. I'm Rob Hipp, now joined by our special guest here. We appreciate him coming in, the sophomore defensive end. Please join me in welcoming number 54, Donovan Conley. Welcome, Donovan.
Thank you.
I'm going to fix this right here just a little bit, man, so we'll give you a little fix there. Well, Donovan, we appreciate you being here, man. We're talking here at Southwestern, a lot of great athletes, a lot of great guys that do some phenomenal work, and you're just another example of that. And Looking forward to hearing from you here in just a few minutes. From Cedar Hill, Texas, I believe, Trinity Christian High School. Donovan, can you talk a little bit about growing up and playing football there in Cedar Hill and your high school career at Trinity Christian to get things started?
Football there basically, like here as well, it helped me on and off the field growing as a man and as a football player. And so it taught me a lot of things, basically to strengthen me on and off the field.
Awesome, man. Well, talk about, as we kind of break the ice here, some of your hobbies, man, because we've been talking football all afternoon. Let's talk a little bit. What's some of your hobbies, Donovan?
When it's not football, in the room studying, making sure the grades are right, or on the game with some friends, other football players I play with.
So the first part of that question, that was the answer you wanted Southwestern to hear, right? The studying part on the hobbies?
Yeah.
Awesome. See, Donovan's got the right answer. Well, Donovan, talk about, what are you majoring in here at Southwestern?
Business.
Business. Awesome, man. And how did you get involved with that?
Basically, my father growing up, my mother and father, they're big on kind of like the paperwork behind the things, and my dad's biggest thing is after football, what am I gonna do? And he was like, if football doesn't work out for you going your whole life, what do you plan on doing afterwards? And he was like, if you don't have a goal set now, you're not gonna have one later. So he started me off at a young age to have a mindset of what I want to do when I grow up, and that's one of the main things. I'm pretty good at math. So
awesome, man. I'll take a quick second here real quick and flip that there. That'll be a little bit easier. And I took Donovan, I took you off the camera there, man, for that. So we continue to talk to Donovan Conley here. Talk about, how did you end up playing football at Southwestern University, man?
Going through emails of coaches contacting me, I noticed Southwestern, and I noticed that was a reoccurring school around my school in Cedar Hill. Southwestern reached out to a couple of players at my school, and a lot of them came back talking great feedback on the school, saying it's a beautiful school. The coaching staff is amazing and everything. So when I came on a visit to see for myself, it was mind-blowing. Everything, it felt like a second home.
Well, you guys facing a very tough Hardin-Simmons team on Saturday. It's homecoming. You got to be excited about that. Talk about that homecoming feel first before we talk a little bit about Hardin-Simmons. How excited are you for homecoming?
Ecstatic. Homecoming is just, it takes the game to the second level. It's like everybody's more excited. Mindset has to be on point and everything.
And I think the hotel here filling up too. We've got a lot of friends that are coming into town and a lot of parents that'll be here for that, so we're excited. Well, let's talk a little bit about Hardin-Simmons. The number 2 team right now in the ASC. Talk about your mindset facing another tough opponent here in Hardin-Simmons.
Not really worried. I know with our defense and offense, if we play to our best ability, we can handle any challenge that's in front of us. So I'm very confident in our team.
Well, talking about you're a sophomore, so one of the young ones on the team. We can say that, and you're still learning a lot from a lot of the other players. Who do you look up to on the team and get advice from, being a sophomore?
There's so many. I can't really pick out one person because it's like everybody, we bond so tightly together that it's not one person that, like, it sticks out. We're literally a family. So it's like everybody, if you have any questions, you can talk to anybody.
And so what has that been like? We talked to the seniors, and they've told us kind of their journey. And for you being a sophomore, what's one thing that you notice, of course, as a freshman too, but what's one thing that you notice coming from high school ball and being a young player in college? What's one of the first things that you notice the differences during that transition?
Coming from high school to college, you're no longer the top dog at the school. There are top dogs from around the world everywhere coming to school and playing football, and you have to change your mindset as soon as you step on the field that it's not just about you anymore.
Awesome. Well, can you talk about so far this season, what's been some of the best moments for you, Donovan?
Being able to get on the field, playing.
I like that. He just said being able to be on the field and play. So let's give him a round of applause for that. I think, a man that wants to play, that's what it's about. I like that answer. Just that's the way it is, man. Well, can you talk a little bit, Donovan, about some of who's been your biggest influences, some of your role models to help you get to where you're at today, man?
I'm going to have to give it to my mom and pops. They've been there since I was first stepped on the football field. They've been my number one fans. They taught me the right and wrong from everything on and off the field. They showed me how to become the man that I am now.
Well, Donovan, you talk about, wanting to be majoring in business. Where would you like to be after college? What's kind of your dream job? Where do you really want to see yourself ending up, hopefully?
Not really sure where exactly, but I kind of want to go into work with my mom's. She works at American Airlines, kind of like at the headquarters side, the management. And it's kind of like her work is interesting to me.
Awesome, man. Do you like flying?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't fly till I was like 23, and I was scared. I was holding on to the seats. Now I love it, man. So,
yeah.
Well, Donovan, camera right there. Mickey's behind the camera. That one over there on the one shot. Who do you want to send a shout-out to? A little love tonight here from Georgetown, Texas, man.
You got to give it to my mom and pops. Thank you for everything.
Awesome. Well, let's give it up. One more round of applause for the defensive end, Donovan Conley. We appreciate you, man, and best of luck. We're looking forward to seeing the rest of the season and what more you guys are going to do throughout your career here at Southwestern. So
Yes,
we appreciate Donovan being here. We'll step aside for a very quick break. We'll bring up another guest and player. Stay with us, friends. SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin continues from the Sheraton here on SHN Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Please join me in welcoming our next guest, the senior offensive lineman, number 66, Noah B-Money Berlanga. Give it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that your nickname? Do you have a nickname on the team?
No.
No nickname. We'll just say B-Money, man. We were going to say Big B or B-Money.
Big B, okay.
Or Big B. He wants Big B, so that's what we're going with the rest of it. Well, this young man from Fort Worth, Texas, Southwest Christian High School, in the SCAC, honorable mention back in 2016. You're majoring in education. Noah, really appreciate you being here tonight.
Good to be here.
Once we get started, to kind of break things open, can you talk a little bit about Fort Worth and attending Southwest Christian School there?
Yeah, little tap school right on Benbrook Lake. Growing up in Fort Worth, my whole family's from there, so really good to kind of grow up around family. I kind of lived with my grandparents for a little while my dad was in the Marine Corps still. So just a lot of close family and, yeah, really, really relaxed. So.
Well, you're a senior here at Southwestern. Of course, you were part of the championship team in the SCAC. Talk about some things that have been exciting for you being here in Georgetown, Texas at Southwestern University.
Yeah, definitely part of that championship team was really good, really fun time. Creating bonds with new guys. Back and forth, I was at the same high school for my whole life, so kind of branching out and meeting new people was really exciting for me. So part of that's been probably my favorite thing, meeting new people.
Awesome. Well, before we talk too much about football, what are some of your hobbies, man?
I really enjoy photography.
Really?
A lot, yeah. I took a few pictures of the guys during I missed the first few games, so taking pictures of the guys kind of was really fun for me. So.
And how's that something you got in? Because that's pretty cool, man. How did you get into photography?
Freshman year of high school, I actually took a photography class, and I just fell in love with it, and everyone said I had an eye for it. So it's like, okay, I guess I'll start getting into photography. So got a camera and just started taking pictures. Yeah.
Sweet, man. So a little side gig down the road. You know, once you're out of college, can't do it while you're in college. But once you're out of college, a little side road. If you need some photography, this is the man right here. So we'll talk about how you ended up here at Southwestern University, Noah.
Well, at the end of my senior year, my dad was kind of just sending out film to a bunch of schools, and whatever schools would respond, he would send out to the rest of the schools of that conference. So I think Austin College was a big school that we were looking at, and then Southwestern contacted us and went to visit the campus. I just fell in love with it. Felt like I was at home. I love Georgetown. It's kind of like a smaller Fort Worth. Fort Worth is pretty spread out and small, but Georgetown kind of has that same feel. You have Austin just 30 minutes south, so it just felt like home. So
I want to ask this just from growing. I was born and raised here, so I got to ask you this. What's your favorite thing about Georgetown? What do you enjoy about Georgetown? Or what do you do in Georgetown? We can maybe say that.
I like to eat.
Like to eat. And we got a lot of places. How many people like to eat? Can we hear around? Everybody loves to eat.
I like to eat. 600 is really good.
Awesome,
I love 600.
man. Well, you know, you're a senior on the team. Noah, can you talk about your role to your teammates? As a senior, a lot of the underclassmen look up to you. Tell us a little bit about your role on the team and some of the leadership that you provide to some of your teammates.
I think the biggest role that I play is being more of a leader through my actions. I'm not really the most vocal person in the world when I'm on the field. I just try and stay consistent, kind of level-headed, you know, kind of keep everyone calm and not going off the rails. So I think being more of a equalizer rather than someone who's really pumping everyone up. So just keep everyone level-headed.
You know, and a lot of times here on SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin, we like to really change it up and talk to as many players as we can, and not just names that you hear all the time. Being on that offensive line, there's a lot of things that you do that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but it's things that make the game and make the score where it gets. Talking about blocking for your running backs. Of course, when Fred Hover keeps the ball, you guys have to create holes for him to run through. Can you describe and explain a little bit more about what it's like being on that offensive line and creating some of those gaps for your guys to be able to run through?
It's just real fun to kind of create great opportunities for your team. I know for me personally, I love working with the offensive line. I think a lot of people on the team would say the offensive line is a really close group, and we just enjoy doing what we do. So creating those lanes, creating those opportunities for people like Fred and AJ to make those types of plays is something we really enjoy.
Well, a few games, of course, remaining here in the regular season. What's going through your mind right now as a senior?
Just finish strong, honestly. Stay focused. Don't lose track of what we've set out to do, which is win out every game. So just staying focused and really grinding.
Well, talking about winning out every game, a tough opponent, probably the toughest out of those three this Saturday versus Hardin-Simmons. Your thoughts on that game, and what are you looking forward to in it?
I'm looking forward to the challenges that Mike Backer brings us. He's pretty fast, but we've been working hard all practice to really get to him. So I think that's something our offensive line can get done.
As we continue to talk to Noah Berlanga here for the offensive lineman for Southwestern University here on SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin. I wanted to ask you, and I ask a lot of the same questions every week to our guests, but you guys have such different experiences. You come from different backgrounds, so it's always great to hear. But who's been some of your biggest influences, role models, that have really helped you get to where you're at today, Noah?
Definitely my mom and dad. I first started playing football in the 4th grade, and I absolutely hated it, to be honest. I hated it. And they really pushed me to kind of keep playing. And I just fell in love with it, you know. Just needed that little gentle push, and ever since I've been playing ever since. So definitely my mom and dad for pushing me and teaching me to never quit.
And have you always played on the line? What has been some other positions?
Yeah,
awesome.
I've always played. Actually, I played both ways in high school. So
sweet.
So yeah, I played on the line.
Awesome. Okay, so both on the defense and the offense. Awesome, man. Well, talking about your major, from what I read, majoring in education, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that and really what led you to want to major in education, and what would be your ideal job after Southwestern, man?
Well, I actually came into Southwestern doing computer science, and that was just not a good path for me. So after my first 2 semesters here, I did a lot of reflecting, and what I found in high school, I went on some missions to Guatemala. I had spent time in some orphanages, and just spending time with those kids really brought me a lot of joy, kind of just talking to them, honestly. And education seemed to be that perfect path, you know. During one of my Spanish classes, during one of my semesters, we have to go to school in GISD. And just being in the classroom, I just felt really comfortable interacting with the kids. And even like today, I taught a lesson today. I went to my placement. So
no way, man, awesome.
Just interacting with kids and kind of, you know, giving them what I know. And just if one kid grabs onto it, then that's great. That's that's just a thrill for me. So
well,
that's something I'm super excited about.
Another young man making a big difference at Southwestern. Let's give him a round of applause for that, making an impact on young people. And you'll hear at the end of the broadcast how I end every broadcast, but it's so true, and the impact that you make and all of you guys at Southwestern, especially for our young people, it doesn't go unnoticed, so definitely keep that up, young man.
Thank you.
And I wanted to tell you, too, man, I had an IT business for 15 years here in Georgetown that I recently sold. I took computer science in high school. I failed it with a 40, and I dropped out of it. So that may be a good choice, man.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was brutal.
Well, as we wrap up here with Noah Berlanga, camera right here on you. Who do you want to give a shout-out to? Send a little love from G-Town, Texas, from the big man over here. Who do you want to send out to, my man? From
my mom and my dad, for sure. Hi. And Bonnie, too. She's probably watching. My little sister. So, love y'all.
Well, let's give it up one more time. Noah, Big B Berlanga in the house. Appreciate you being here. Awesome interview. We appreciate you, Noah, and good luck in these final 3 games, and good luck going forward. Friends, we'll take another quick break. We'll talk more about what's going on around Southwestern. We'll thank our sponsors. We'll be right back. SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin continues here on SHN Sports. Stay with us, friends. Well, welcome back to SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin. This is a segment where we quickly and briefly go over some of the other athletics going on at Southwestern University. The Southwestern golf team, they've been in the news quite a bit this past week as we talk about Leilani McDaniel selected as the SCAC Women's Golfer of the Week for competition that was played through October the 23rd. She closed out the fall portion of the 2018-19 season by earning medalist honors at the Abilene Intercollegiate with a 36-hole score of 154. And this began the final round in 6th place. She finished with 24 pars and 3 birdies. Let's give it up for that young lady. Great job out there on the golf team representing Southwestern University with class. Great job. In men's golf, Cade Osgood and Matthew Chrisley tied for second on the individual leaderboard after SU claimed first place at Golf Week Fall Invitational in Abilene. They were named the SCAC Co-Golfers of the Week. One more round of applause for those two guys as well. Congratulations. And once again, the golf team just doing some great things. Southwestern's junior Romy Reyna selected as the SCAC Women's Soccer Defensive Player of the Week for matches played Monday, October 16th to Sunday, October the 21st. Matches at Trinity on Tuesday, October the 23rd were canceled. The Pirates will host Dallas at 7 p.m. on Friday and Austin College at 2 p.m. on Sunday. The women's soccer current record, 8-5 overall, 6-3 in the SCAC. They're currently in second place. Congratulations to that young lady as well. The men's soccer team dropped a close match in Irving on October the 22nd, 2-1 to the University of Dallas Crusaders. After the cancellation at Trinity on Tuesday, the men's soccer team will host Dallas at 5 p.m. on Friday and Austin College at 12 p.m. on Sunday. Currently 9-5-1 overall, 7-4-1 in SCAC. And they're currently in the 4th place in the conference. Women's volleyball is on a 5-game winning streak. Their next matches will take place on Saturday at Centenary College in Shreveport, Louisiana. Those games start at 10 a.m., 14-10 overall. But they are rocking and rolling in the SCAC, currently 3rd place behind Colorado College and Trinity. Their record 10-3. We appreciate all the wonderful job that the student athletes at Southwestern University are doing and representing Southwestern with class as they always do. Well, friends, this show could not be made possible. A lot of what we do here on SHN and a lot of what goes on with Southwestern Athletics, it just couldn't be possible without our sponsors. We want to take a quick moment to go over those. Our platinum sponsors, Minuteman Press, Waterboy Graphics. Thank you, Blake Nicholson, Ty Gibson, for the work that you do here in Georgetown. Mighty Fine Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Roger Chappell, he gets another clap. He's here again. Every week he gets a clap. Thank you, Roger, for being here. I keep saying if you come, you get a clap. So we appreciate you being here from Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, our good friends at First Texas Bank, Georgetown Jewelry, HEB, Mama Foo's Asian House, Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, and, of course, last but not least on the platinum level, Sheraton Austin Georgetown Hotel and Conference Center. Thank you, Sheraton Hotel. We appreciate you for allowing us to invade your space every Thursday night here. The gold sponsor, CJ's Catering, Double Dave's Pizza, Primerica Financial Solutions, R Bank, Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union, Schloschke's Austin Eatery, South Star Bank, St. David's Georgetown Hospital, Texel Credit Union, and Turnip Seed Real Estate Group are silver sponsors this season. Antioch, Georgetown, Chick-fil-A, Georgetown Commercial Properties, and Craig and Sandy Mooney over at Georgetown Shirt Company. Last but not least, a lot of bronze sponsors as well, helping to make these events and more possible. Be Creative, Boomtown Escapes, thank you Valerie Nicholson, Chisholm Trail Pediatrics, the City of Georgetown, Don Hewlett Chevrolet, Eagles Wings Home Services, Gary Brown CPA, Georgetown Title, Hillstone at Wolf Ranch Apartments, John F. Lewis CPA, State Farm, Featherstone Agencies, and Upstream Investment Partners. One more round of applause for all of the wonderful sponsors. Thank you so much for what you do here at Southwestern University. We'll take another quick break. Our last and final segment is we'll bring up my color analyst, Galen Welnicki, and we'll also bring back up head coach Joe Austin as we talk about the Hardin-Simmons matchup on Saturday. Stay with us, friends. SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin continues here on SHN Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SU Football Weekly with Coach Joe Austin. I'm Rob Hipp alongside Galen Welnicki. Hey, I wanted to give a special thanks as well to two more friends that are here today. It's their first time here. They're sitting over there, so thank you to Miss Annabelle Fiddler and Jesse Blanchard for what y'all do at Southwestern. You guys make my job easy, so thank y'all so much for the great work that y'all do. And see, if you show up, too, you get special recognition if it's your first time. So we appreciate y'all, and thank you for all that you guys do. Well, as we talk in this last segment here, Southwestern, of course, hosting the Hardin-Simmons Cowboys at Birkelbach this Saturday. Homecoming, so you got to get out there and support your Southwestern Pirates. Kickoff scheduled for 1 p.m. There's several Georgetown players from Georgetown High School that play on that Hardin-Simmons team. So we're excited about that and, of course, more excited for Southwestern football, though. But we are excited to have some Georgetown representation as well. The Hardin-Simmons Cowboys second in the ASC at 6-1 overall, 5-1 in the conference. They're on a 2-game winning streak, just like Southwestern. Their only loss was a 26-0 shutout on the road versus Mary Hardin-Baylor. Coach, a tough team this Saturday. Tell us a little bit about the matchup.
Well, they're very good. They're an elite Division III program. They've been in the national playoffs for 5, 6, 7 years in a row, maybe more. They've been a top 10 team every year for at least the last 4 or 5 years. They are very good. They've got a collection of some of the best pure Division III players, and they also get a lot of transfers. Abilene Christian in the backyard doesn't hurt them, but they get transfers from other places. So they're able to stockpile some really good talent, and of course when you do well and you win, then players are more apt to want to come to your program anyhow. So they're very good, very talented. They have a lot of the conference players of the year. For example, they have the reigning conference offensive player of the year on their team. Just a very solid team top to bottom, very good on special teams. Very just, I can't say enough about, how consistent they are and how year in and year out they're a playoff team, they're a host playoff team, just a really good football program.
Coach, we know on the defensive end, of course, the goal is going to be to continue the running defense that we've seen all season from Southwestern. Can you talk a little bit more about what Southwestern is going to have to do in this game to be successful against this tough team?
We're going to have to stop the run. They average, as I mentioned in the first segment, 350 yards a game, give or take. and they're talented up front, and they use a lot of tight ends and H-backs and fullbacks, and they create extra gaps, more places for them to run the football, which means you have to commit more defenders to try to stop that. Now, of course, we're looking at this as our strength against their strength. We're confident that we're going to do well. Now, they're going to have some rushing yards. This isn't a game we had against Sul Ross a few weeks ago. They had -10. Well, if that happens, we're going to be in great shape, but I don't know that that's going to be realistic to think we're going to hold them to -10 yards, but we're certainly very confident that we're going to hold them to a lot less than what their season average is, and that will definitely help our football team. Let me mention, we feel good about it because we did it really well last year. They averaged the same thing last year. They came in averaging over 300 yards rushing, and we held them to about 100 yards. And on 2 plays, we're about 60 of those that we had missed run fits. And that's what we have to eliminate. If we can have all of our guys where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there, we can hold them to minimal gains pretty consistently.
And Coach, Galen got a question for you here in just a minute, but I wanted to ask you, homecoming this week, how special is that for the kids and also for the families?
Well, I think it is. One of the coolest things I found out about Southwestern is that we created homecoming, and we started it. Now, Baylor says that they do, but, if you look at recent events, Baylor's not always the most truthful place. I'm just kidding. But, of course, we started the tradition. I said that because I know you're a Baylor guy at heart. So
I'm wearing my gold tonight,
I was poking the bear, if you see what I did there, the Baylor bear. But, of course, it's a really cool thing, and I make sure all of our players understand that we created homecoming. It's a Southwestern thing. It's an important part. There's not a whole lot that we have to do. It kind of varies from year to year. We've had some changes in what our homecoming schedule is. Sometimes we're more involved than other years. This year, all we have to do is go and play and go and play well. But homecoming is definitely a big thing to us.
Galen?
Oh, was that hamburger you had just big enough?
It was big. Lunch was early. I had a pretty packed afternoon. I'm meeting with a lot of our players this week, kind of some mid-season, just checking in, see how things are going. So we had a 1 o'clock recruiting meeting, a 2:30 special team staff meeting, and then from 3:30 to 5:30 I was meeting with players. So lunch came early, so I was really hungry, and that cheeseburger was excellent.
Good. You're playing a team. I haven't watched any film on them. You have. But statistically, they're probably the most balanced team you've played this year offensively. How do you sort out what you're going to do?
Well, you stop the run. It's death by 100 paper cuts, right? You got to get them off the field. You can't let them do what they want to do. And kind of like us, their run game leads to play-action pass opportunities. But they also, beyond the play-action passes, they run kind of 2 different offenses. They'll have their tight end H-back packages, multiple backs, where they'll pound it, and then try to get an isolation. You have to put so many guys in the box that you have a receiver out here with 1 guy on him. And they've got really good perimeter players that they can isolate guys. But then they'll go spread. They'll go 4 wide, take out all the tight ends, all the H-backs, and they like to throw it around that way also. They're really deep, and they've just had the emergence of a couple new freshman guys that have been in the return game. They both had over 100 yards receiving last week. So, I'm not telling you that it's going to be easy, but we're going to start with trying to stop the run game. And hopefully, we've seen so many good receivers over the season. Our young guys have seen it before. Hopefully this will be a game where they can mature a little bit, and we can hang in there in the passing game.
I noticed in the statistics they've got the real good running back. Is he a slasher? Is he run with power, or is he a combination of everything?
Yep. Yeah, he's as good of a running back as there is in Division III, and I don't know how they found that guy, but they did, and he's very good. He's a defending ASC Player of the Year on offense. Very good player. He's active in their pass game. He's good in their run game. His combination of speed. He's not really a heavy guy. He's about 185-pound guy, but he force equals mass times acceleration. He's got the acceleration part down. So he's moving fast when he runs into you. Like Aaron Robinson on our defense. He's not very heavy, but he's moving fast when he hits you. So you know it. He's just a very good running back.
And I've got one last question here. We asked a little bit about something outside the box last week about the schedules coming up. And I've got one. Are there a bunch of teams or any teams lined up right now trying to get admittance into the conference that you know of?
I don't know. That's an administrative question. I just keep my head down and look at our schedule and coach football and do the things that are my job description. it's pretty full with 10 teams. If we expand, you're probably looking at divisions. And then Texas is so big that we are pretty isolated. I mean, even within our conference, you're driving a long way. If you get to 12 teams, for example, 2 6-team divisions, where do you find the rest of your games? You maybe have some crossovers, but then it's not really a balanced schedule. It's what people always complain about in the ACC is that, this person's got the easy schedule this year. No one had to play. They didn't have to play Clemson or Florida State, for example. So I don't know. That's not really not a question for me. I don't think there is. But, there's some teams maybe that used to be in our football conference that if they wanted to come back, I think people would definitely look at making a really strong all-Texas league. I think it would be great if all the Division III Texas teams played in one league. It would certainly be continue to be one of the elite leagues in the nation.
Thank you.
Galen, appreciate your questions. Coach, appreciate you. Wanted to give you a moment to tell us a little bit about the alumni gathering that's going to take place here at the Sheraton. We talked about that just a little bit earlier. If there's any
alumni, hopefully we found you on email, but it's an unofficial thing. We've had seniors for the first time last year, so we had an unofficial gathering just right here at Jack's, and we had about 12 to 15 guys that were able to get off work. Now, luckily, they all have jobs, which is great, right? You graduate from Southwestern to get a job. So some were able to get back to town. Some of them live in town. A lot of them actually live in town. They've stayed in the Austin area. And we'll do the same thing. So if we missed you by email and you're watching the show tonight, we'll be here tomorrow at 6 for another unofficial gathering. Eventually, we're going to have enough people. We're going to have to make something official, right? We're going to have to get a reservation somewhere in a space. But for now, it's just a time for us to reconnect. You don't see a lot of these guys. So hopefully if they make it back to town for homecoming, it'll be cool to see them tomorrow night.
We can unofficially nominate Jim Wilson as the chair of the alumni gatherings. Is that okay, Jim? Jim's pointing at me over here on the side. We appreciate you. Well, Coach, any final closing remarks before we end the show tonight?
I think it's going to be a fun game. Our guys practiced really well. I think they feel confident. And we didn't talk about last year's game, but we went up there, and it was their homecoming. And we love crowds because we play in front of good crowds. We love them to go have environments. And the game was 14-7 with about 4 minutes left, and we had the ball. And if we'd scored on the road, we're going for 2 and for the win. Of course, we didn't score, and they got a late touchdown, kind of a letdown from us. But our guys played them so tough that I think they feel really good about how they're going to play. We're kind of through our hiccups of the season, and I was looking for our guys to have a really good effort. The key is going to be if they can be the better team. We're not going to be the most talented. Our guys know that. They're not upset about it. I didn't knock them when I told them that. But what our edge needs to be is that we have to have the fewest penalties, the fewest mistakes, the fewer assignment errors, and just be the better team. And one of the games I showed them was the Iowa State-West Virginia game. And I said there's not a lot of guys playing for Iowa State that would play for West Virginia, but they hammered West Virginia last weekend. And then we looked at the box score in our team meeting and said, here's how they did it. And that's the formula for a team that may not be the most talented is to play the best team football. And that's how a team like Iowa State, they beat OU last year, they beat Oklahoma State this year, they beat West Virginia, who was ranked number 6, is they play really great team football. The guys know where they're supposed to be. They're where they're supposed to be when they need to be there. And that's the effort that we're looking for our guys.
Coach, I'm not going to spill the beans, but I will say there is a very, 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 and I say very numerous times, special surprise that will be at that game. You'll see it at the game. I won't say anything else. You know what I'm talking about.
You'll know it when you see it.
You need to get to the game, come to homecoming, come support the Southwestern Pirates, because this very, 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 very big surprise, you will see it, and it's going to be pretty cool. So get to the game, get to homecoming, come support your Southwestern Pirates. Well, friends, we appreciate you being here tonight. I like to give our guys credit, too, whenever I can. David England here sitting tonight. He helps us out so much behind the scenes. Can y'all please give David England a round of applause? David helps us a lot with our camera work alongside Mickey and helps us with Georgetown stuff as well. But, David, appreciate you being here and all the work that you do as well. And he's also with the fire department here in Williamson County and Georgetown. So thank you for your service doing that. Wanted to remind you, of course, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. Please do. It helps us out. It helps us build more momentum, if you will, and more exposure for everything going on with Southwestern football. It's very simple. If you're on the YouTube stream right now, just click subscribe. If you want to know how to get there, you can go to youtube.com/SHN Sports and the number 1. That's youtube.com/SHN Sports 1. As always, we want to thank our good friends here at the Sheraton. Can we give one more round of applause for those? Hey, and who are some of our first-time guests here tonight? I noticed Mike Doss back there. Good to see you, and other folks here. Can we give our first-time guests a round of applause? Thank you all for being here tonight. And please join us again next week. You know, the support here at Southwestern has been phenomenal. We appreciate that. Friends, as I end every broadcast, I want to remind you tonight that we're not strong enough alone to make it on our own. We need each other. Provide a word of encouragement. Lend a hand of support. Somebody tonight needs you. Until then, we will see you on Saturday at homecoming. Go Bucks. We'll see you on Saturday. Good night from Georgetown, Texas.
Hi, Mom.